It's kind of an overcast day, but we'll live with it. There's certainly worse places to be right now. Here we are deep in the Lone Star State. Today is our 35th episode on June 28th, 35th episode of Grit and Good News. And we're broadcasting live from our palatial downtown studios in the shadows of the Ellis County Courthouse, as opposed to yesterday. We were on a stage at St. Joseph Catholic Grade School at the Family Hall of the church. We'll talk about a little bit more of that later. But I digress, because really what I want to say is I'm your co-host, Jeff Lynch, and it gives me great pride, pleasure, and honor to introduce my pal, friend, your buddy, Scott Brooks.
Thank you, Bud. Appreciate it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Grit and Good News. It's Tuesday, January the 28th, 2025. It's hard to believe. I remember when I was in 1980 something looking at my actuaries and it said I can retire in 2026. And I'm thinking that will never be a day. Hey, Terry, but thanks for joining us. There'll never be a year 2026. And I'll be dang, here we are. It's cool outside, but I understand we've got some warmer weather coming. The weekend's supposed to be in the low 70s. We'll see. I had a column written the other day about meteorologists, and I decided not to run it because I thought, man, they'll be all butt hurt, and I'll be an enemy of the meteorologists by making fun of them. So I held off on it. But anyway, Jeff and I are always happy to be with you. Again, we do these shows on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's really about bringing the world to Waxahachie and talking about all sorts of things. Because there's plenty to talk about, whether it's state, local, national. Today we have some things to talk about that are somewhat national, but they're also just things that exist in the world that we want to cover. But yesterday we spent about an hour and a half over at St. Joseph's grade school with about 150 little hellions,
1 through 8 grades.
Yeah, it was quite the experience. What did you think of it, Jeff?
You know what? I was proud of them.
Yeah.
And I complimented them throughout the day to you. This is a bunch of good kids. This is a really good bunch of good kids, and they got small class sizes. Some classes are 7 or 8. The biggest class is 20, and they're good kids, and they embraced my concept of poetry, and they enjoy it. And Scott drilled them with some tough questions. I don't know if you want to get into the. I don't know if you want to get into that whole story.
There are a couple of little anecdotes that happened yesterday I thought were quite amusing. I will say that every single one of those kids, when I asked them, did they enjoy Mr. They used Mr. very politely, Mr. Lynch, but I was using saying Mr. Jeff. But do they enjoy Mr. Jeff's poetry class? And every single one of them said yes. And if you happen to see the show, we had thousands of people that have, according to the Facebook numbers, we weren't on Instagram, but we were on Facebook. And I don't know about Twitch and YouTube, but we had well over 4,000 viewers of the show. And these kids, some of them read poems, and very well, I might add, very articulate.
And those were poems that they wrote in class, and it was part of the methodology of how we get the rhyming head going, and then we give them the starter. And in that case, the starter was it's a follow up to last year's book. We had the starter on 1 week of If I Were a, and that gives you so many places to go. And this year's book is going to be called Because I Was a, and so.
They took it and ran with it. Sonia watched it last night and said that they were funny, and they talked. I mean, they talked the horns off a buffalo if you let them. And so a couple of things that happened. A bunch of them kind of not stormed our table, but they had no concept of the camera being on and the mics being on. They just thought they could stand anywhere. They stole all my candy, by the way.
Oh, I did. I noticed them doing it behind your back. Well, here's the deal. We weren't giving away much of anything. I had some business cards out there, but there was a table. I saw them. Some of them had gummy things, and some of them had a Red Oak Fire Department pencil. So when they see things on a table, and any trade show you've ever been to, you just come and grab a handful.
I have these peach mint things that I'm addicted to, and I had a handful of them. I put it there for the show, and when I went to leave, I said, "Sam, land all my candy." They took them. Anyway, so at one point, a bunch of kids stormed up, and I don't know how we got on it, but I think one kid said something about old people. and Jeff said, Jeff said, "Do I look old?"
Am I? Yeah,
You never ask a question you don't know the answer to.
right.
And so the and now Jeff's got a full head of hair and I don't
A-
have
a-
any. And
And
she
and
said,
you
"Yes."
didn't have your hat on.
I didn't have my hat on, bald as it can be. And that little girl said, "Yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah."
got white hair. You got
And
white hair. You're
yeah,
old.
it's white because of the white hair, which I love the white hair. I any color, I'll take hair. And then I said, "What about me?" And then, nope, we don't
No,
look old. So
no.
I'm bald. We're not that different in age.
There
Just the
are a
white
lot
hair.
of men of younger ages than you that are,
I choose to be
you
bald.
know, when they're getting the famed male pattern baldness and they're
Yeah,
chrome doming and they take it all off.
yeah.
Uh,
But
Rita's got a son that's been going cue ball for he's probably done it for 20 years,
wow.
and he's only
Yeah.
in his mid
I
40s.
can't do the cue
Yeah.
ball shiny thing, but and then the best of all yesterday was a little boy named Rhett. What grade was he in? Or is he in?
First,
First grade. So Rhett, full of energy. Rhett comes over to Jeff. Jeff knows him and they have a good time. And Jeff said to him, said, "You are," I think you said something like, "You are my favorite over here," or something. You really complimented him. And he
yeah.
stepped back and he said, "I am."
And then I
Uh
say, well, of course, everybody here is my
Yeah,
favorite,
yeah, exactly. But
which is true.
in that
He
case,
seriously is.
he was very happy to be your favorite. Well, anyway, as I like to do with kids, and I like to cut up and have fun with them, I leaned over to Rhett and said, "Here's the big question, Rhett. Do you have a girlfriend?" And he looked at me and Jeff. He said, "Yes." He didn't hesitate a split second. He said, "Yes." And I said, "What's her name?" He didn't hesitate a split second and said, "Aubrey." And then we said, "Well, is Aubrey here?" And he said, "Yes." And so we said, "Go get Aubrey," because we needed to verify that Rhett was telling us the truth. So he goes and finds Aubrey. Aubrey comes over, and Rhett is standing on my left. Aubrey's on my right between me and Jeff. And I said, "Now, Aubrey, do you have a boyfriend?" And she said, "I don't have a boyfriend." And there's Rhett. And I looked over and I said, you essentially, you got some explaining to do, bud. Because his girlfriend didn't know that she was his girlfriend. And it was a cute, funny, it was
It was a
hilarious
priceless moment.
exchange. Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, if Sam told us. By the way, we didn't introduce Sam, our man
Yeah.
here,
Sam the man.
who capably took us on the road
Hey,
to do that podcast,
yep.
and does yeah,
Yeah.
does a great job all the time.
Yeah.
But he mentioned that we had 4,100 on
Yeah.
Facebook yesterday, which is our all time high. And if you go back and watch it, you know, you can cruise ahead in the middle of it. And uh, Scott only tells that after that happened live, he told that story 3 or 4 times
Yeah.
during the day. So,
Yeah. I
you know,
love that story.
now you've heard it all. So you don't have to listen to it four
Yeah, I'll
times.
tell. Although it was cute
It
watching
was
him
cute.
because he
It
had
was
to
a
smile
priceless
like
moment.
he was like a
Oh,
smile
and the
so
look
big.
on Aubrey's face.
Yeah, she said,
No.
that was too funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, so today, a couple things we want to talk about. You know, I never cease to be amazed by the things that we find society and our culture arguing about, or something that becomes prevalent. And we talked about it before in our show, and we hear about labels and phrases and things that we just hear so much that we just assume that it's a valid uh worthy subject, or that it somehow is true or authentic. And there's countless examples of it. um and so I like to say, well, why is that the case? If have we ever really stopped to think about whether it's a label that we give somebody or that has been given to somebody? And do we really ever stop to say, well, like with Trump, what is, you call him a liar? What, I mean, sure, he's a talker, he's a bloviator, he likes to embellish. I'll give him that. But when it comes to the reality, where has, to those who despise Trump, I'm like, what has Trump done to you? You know? So but it's, if we don't say why, if we don't say, wait a second, you don't get to say that without offering something credible, then it'll just be it'll be said over and over again until it becomes part of our culture. Racism has been around as an issue for decades upon decades, maybe all of life, all of the history. I don't know what it was like back in Adam and Eve and all that, but uh,
There's biblical references to different groups looking down on
sure.
different
So
groups.
there are different races, which is different than racism, but there are different races. So Jeff and I thought we would just talk about the element of racism in America today. You know, it was about, well, when George Floyd was killed in 2020, uh, because of a few people here in town, there was a coalition put together of about 30 people, a mix of white and African Americans or white and black. And it was to say, okay, do we have any racial divides here? And if so, let's get these things ironed out. And I have believed for a long, long time that there is no, in my opinion, there is no visible, uh, palpitating, if you will, racist element in Waxahachie. That doesn't mean that there are people who believe that there aren't people who believe that they're it's stacked against them. But we don't have the things that we see in other communities. We don't have protests. We don't have, we've heard people talk about the statues.
Right. But you talk about the groups of people that think they're stacked against
Yeah.
them, but I think you'd be naive to say that in this community or any community, any section, that there are not people with racist feelings. And racism is so often thought of as a black and white thing. It extends to all different minorities. It extends to various minorities to other minorities. I mean, I think there's been a lot of talk in recent years about black people often having ill feelings towards Hispanic people,
Mhm.
and so it'd be naive to think that there isn't racism.
Yeah, I think racism, the there are those in every community who feel like there are people that are racist towards them. And there are people in every community that are racist. What I'm talking about is do we as a country on a national level, let's just use it on a national level. So take any sector of the community, take politics. If somebody says, well, there's racism in politics, I would say, tell me where. Give me an example. What about sports? Is there racism in sports? Tell me where. Is there racism in education? If so, tell me where it is. Um, and so I don't ever want to be naive and believe that racism doesn't exist, but I need to be able to digest example. When we have had black president, 2 terms, one
Biracial.
okay, well, he referred to himself as black. When we have a self-referred to black vice president, uh, we've had other cabinet members that are black. We've had people that are. I think we have some of the finest representatives in both the Senate and particularly in the House of Representatives that are black. In sports, basketball is dominated by a certain race, just like baseball is dominated by Latino.
Right.
And so,
And in football, there was a time that blacks were never quarterbacks
right.
because there was a feeling that they didn't have the intellect. And uh, once the first couple got in there, uh, that all changed.
Yeah, it was Jimmy the Greek who made that claim that they weren't built or created to be quarterbacks, which is absurd. I
Right.
mean, we have a number of black quarterbacks, very good ones, and we have a number of black coaches. So there may have been time when that was true, but I say there are certain aspects of the community that maybe racism is greater than in others. I did some research on this, and Pew Research says that in June of 2024, 75% of African Americans still say they experience discrimination regularly or from time to time, and that the system is set up for their failure. Now, to me, that's got to be one of the worst feelings I think I could ever experience is that regardless of my color or regardless of whatever reason, that something is stacked against me so that I don't have a chance to pursue my dreams. And to the extent that we can on this show, we can with the companies, the brands that we own uh, here, we can make sure that we do our part in eliminating any possibility that we're holding anybody back for any reason.
But I tell you what, if that many people feel that way,
Yeah.
we can't discount that feeling.
No, we can't. That's the point. Is that part of the point is that we have those we have those like Al Sharpton who are race hustlers,
The Reverend.
the race baiters. All right, we know that. So I differentiate him and those like him from the people in my world, in my company, who um, who are of the same race, but who have opportunities and are doing extremely well, and we love them. And I don't really. I mean, I see a different color, but that's it's so what. So in that same research, it says, and again, this is June 2024. Racial discrimination shapes. This is the belief. Racial discrimination shapes how Black Americans view their progress in U.S. institutions. Uh, Black adults say they must work more than everyone else to get ahead. Black Americans mistrust the criminal justice system. Black Americans mistrust U.S. political system. Black Americans mistrust economic system. Black Americans mistrust the news media. Black Americans mistrust the healthcare system, and Black Americans mistrust U.S. government policies on family and reproductive health. So we have racial communities that have these beliefs that I think, just like we want our feelings to be validated, or that they are validated, we need to understand that these feelings are valid, not from the Al Sharptons and the Jesse Jacksons and these race baiters that make a living off of just stoking the fire. It's like Costco, as I mentioned to you earlier. Costco is one of the few corporate companies that has said we're not getting rid of DEI. So what does Al Sharpton do? He gets 50 of his closest thug friends to go to a Costco with cameras in tow and shop because Costco is not turning racist.
You
So
know, uh, race is a subset of diversity questions. Remember we talked about diversity
yeah,
long the other day?
yeah,
Gender, ethnicity, sexual
right,
orientation, disability, age, culture, class, religion, and opinion. Um, so when DEI came in, there were people that celebrated it because of what it would do to help them, but sadly, it was perpetuating a feeling of division.
mhm,
Okay, and then there was the whole feeling the other way of people saying, um, you know, all the diverse people are getting all the breaks,
yeah.
and so it was this discrimination back
The
in the other
opposite way.
direction.
Yeah, there's a book out and came out in the George Floyd era, if you will, that's called White Fragility. And White Fragility basically, and I experienced it, uh, basically said that we become so volatile. I don't think with it's not necessarily with reality, but we become so volatile with the element of racism as pushed by race baiters in this country, so much so that people that are not of that race feel fragile in as to what they can say
Hmm.
in any kind of setting. And when I was in that on that coalition, and I said to my friends of the African American community, which they're still my friend. There was no reason for them ever to stop being my friends. But I remember saying black folks using that phrase. I think at the same time I was saying white folks or any folks. I use it in my columns from time to time. I had a black preacher stand up and not stand up, but raise his hand and says, "Brother Scott, that's an example of racism. You saying black folks is racist." And I told him he's full of it because there's not any racist part of me that, to begin with. Secondly, I wouldn't, it wasn't, it's so foreign to my thought process that that would be a form of racism because it isn't a form of racism. He might have decided it was racist, and he's somewhat militant and activist. I get that. Later in that coalition, one of those meetings, I said that because same guy was talking about Black history, and when he was talking about Black history, those were his words. And then when I responded to it, as did many others, and said, "You're referring to Black history, and Black history tells us this and tells us that," he said, "See, you using the words Black history is a racist term." And I'm like, that's white fragility. If there's anything valid about that book, my examples are valid because I then, if I didn't have the personality that I have or the confidence that I have, I would have stopped saying that. I would have been so
Right.
fragile. But I'm like, you're. I didn't call him an idiot, but I said, you're frankly outrageous.
So, simply put, racism in any form is lack of love, correct?
Yeah.
And guess what is the number one thing that will take it away? And it is happening more and more and more. It's becoming so prevalent. Interracial relationships and marriages.
Hmm.
And guess what? Are those people that hated each other getting married? No, they don't hate each other till they've lived with each other. That's just a joke.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, they the love is producing babies, and the babies are biracial, and we're going the racial division will continue to go away with more and more of that.
Yeah, it's for me. We just hired back in September, I think it was, a new salesperson, African American. His name is Nate, and we are not only are we thrilled to have him on our team as a team member, he's he's
He's selling
he
the dog out of it,
he's
isn't
a
he?
he's a perfect example of meritocracy. I mean, we hired him because he stated and believed and had the experience that would tell us that he could do the job and do it well. And I'll be darned, he's doing it well.
Yeah,
And but the idea that, I mean, again, it drives me crazy when people say, "Well, I don't see color." Well, how can you not see color? How can you not see that African American or black person has a different color than you? Just like how can you not see a Hispanic or an Asian or a my oldest son is a full-blooded American Indian that we adopted. He's different. So don't say you can't see color, because you can. What you can't, what I mean, if I were to ever, I wouldn't say that, but what I don't see is any difference. There's no
right.
different. What
It, it,
Nate does is the same. I view him as part of our team.
and our man Zar, who really
Yeah.
spearheaded all the efforts of getting this thing going, and he's biracial, and he loves talking about his black mother's feelings
Yeah.
and um, her support of Trump and her just everything that you're on the surface not expecting. And again, in the Trump election, the large number of Hispanic and African American voters going his way. So
Yeah.
it's there, it's real.
Yeah.
Love can cure it, and it happens in each individual's heart and
I
soul.
just say this. What, just because the Al Sharptons of this world, who I think there's a special place in hell for people like Al Sharpton, to tell you the truth, who who um who perpetuate, who 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 leverage a problem that I think would be far less of a problem if people like him didn't exist. I'm not going to let them influence anything that we do. So uh, I believe our job, regardless of what color we are, is to bring people together. And even those that politically disagree with me, I mean, some of them won't sit down and talk with me, but I'll always sit down and talk with someone who disagrees with me politically, not so as to convince them of something that I know. Those who believe in abortion are not going to stop believing in abortion,
Well,
just like I'm not going to ever believe that abortion is anything less than murder, period. And so there's no sense trying to convince me of that. Um, but we still can be friends.
amen,
All
amen.
right, Sammy, time for you in Cancun.
Cancun's. Cancun's is a great breakfast, lunch, and dinner spot here in Waxahachie. It is located on 77, about 2.5 miles north of 287, and on the west side. It has a beautiful building, and like my dad says, it is a merry Tex-Mex, so you have plenty of options to choose from. If you download our Down Home app off the App Store or Google Play Store, you can check the coupon corner, and if you spend $20 at Cancun's, you get a free order of their great sopapillas. I'm pretty sure that deal ends February 28th. Very nice people, great experience. Check out Cancun's.
Is
Yeah,
that the
so
last day of February?
Yeah,
Just checking with you.
yeah,
for sure.
Sammy, what did you think of those kids yesterday?
They're fun. They're cool, crazy.
That was you about
They
what 10 years? No, 15 years ago. Some of them.
they would get done talking to you and go over to me and they'd be like, "This is on YouTube. How do I
Oh
see
yeah,
it? How do I see it?"
yeah.
But
They were all they wanted to be on camera.
yeah,
There's no element of shy or lack of self confidence in kids at St. Joseph's uh, Catholic school.
But I tell you what, they toe the line in class.
Do they?
They do. They do.
I was really impressed. We're going to talk about a couple of them here in a minute when we get to our sports segment today. So the question I have here's an example of what I was saying earlier. We hear people say there's weaponization, there's lawfare in America. And that's a new concept, really. I mean, it probably has existed to some extent always, but in the past 4 years, we've certainly learned a lot about that word, those two words, weaponization and lawfare. And so, again, as a just a human being, just an average citizen, I have a responsibility to say, wait a minute, I keep hearing people talk about weaponization. My obligation is to make sure I do enough reading and understanding to know whether or not it's actually true. So I asked Jeff if we talk about this today and see what we thought about the question: has there been for the last 4 years weaponization out of the Department of Justice by Merrick Garland towards anyone, not the least of which would be Trump?
Well, the interesting part of that question is to think that, let's remember, the Department of Justice is like the state attorney general's office or the city attorney general's office. It's a nation. It basically is like nationwide attorney generals, right?
Yeah.
So we can't confuse it with the court systems. And in the court systems, we know that all these Supreme Court appointments and the controversies and the votes that are going by party lines, and then the uh, the power and the group that's in control gets to appoint the judges at all the levels down.
Mhm.
And so the judiciary system is one that, when you go to vote for Ellis County judges, they don't run as Republicans or
Right.
Democrats, but you know that they lean one way or the other. So the court system drifts conservative and liberal with who's there. But the Department of Justice has never been the same. The Department of Justice, as you said, there may have always been some leanings, but it was never really overt. And I think it did become overt, and it had to do with the Biden administration's um, ill will towards Trump, and it started out with January 6th, and it just kept snowballing from
Yeah.
there.
So
It started out with Trump contesting the election, and digging your heels in deeper, and go, you know what? I'm in power, and guess what, dude?
yeah.
I'm putting a hammer on you.
So do you remember where the name Merrick Garland uh, how and where and when it appeared on the national scene? You remember?
Not
Most
specifically.
people don't. So in Obama's last term,
Okay.
the last part of his fourth year, so he was lame duck. I think it
Yeah.
was the last 30 days.
Okay.
I can't remember if it was Antonin Scalia who died suddenly, or somebody may have retired. But anyway, a Supreme Court position,
Okay.
justice seat came open. And Obama, who was again only a month or maybe let's say 2 months to be fair, was on his way out.
Okay.
And so Trump had already been elected, uh, and then a Supreme Court seat comes open. Obama wanted to fill it. The history or the custom in the United States, the tradition is that doesn't you don't let the lame duck
Now I know where you're
choose
going
who
with this. Yeah.
but Obama
The delaying of that.
but Obama nominated Merrick Garland to sit on the Supreme Court. Well, the Republican side and Trump said, "No way, not a chance in hell are we going to let you do that. Not only are you a lame duck, we don't like
We're
Merrick Garland."
stonewalling this into
Yeah.
the
So
new
Merrick
administration.
Garland
Yeah.
uh, Merrick Garland didn't get that. I think that was Gorsuch that ended up getting the seat that Merrick was up for Merrick Garland. So if you're Merrick Garland and you were on the verge, you had been nominated by the Democrat president at the time, and you had a chance to sit on the Supreme Court, and the new president coming in,
A
Donald Trump,
lifetime job, push as could
yes,
be.
yes, and the Republican Senate and the Republican side of politics said, we're not accepting Merrick Garland. I don't even think it came to any kind of, they refused to even go vote on him. So you're Merrick Garland, the average person you would assume would have some bitter feelings, and it would make sense that you would have bitter feelings. Now, Attorney General is not supposed to have bitter feelings that
But
get in
we're
the
all
way.
human, and you know how we're treated. And
But Merrick Garland came on the scene as a result of something that would provoke or compel, in my opinion, bitter feelings. So we have that premise. Merrick Garland then comes on and he gets himself all tied up in front of every hearing and in every hearing he ever sat in front of Congress. And it was volatile and it was ugly. And it was ugly because of what I believe was weaponization of the Department of Justice. And there are several examples that we're not going to take much time to go through all of them, but I'm just going to list January 6th. Obviously, there's some weaponization in the Justice Department with January 6th, in my opinion. I'm not saying that what happened on January the 6th was just a walk in the park, but I am saying that there were a number of people, not any longer, but there are a number of people who sat in jail that should have never been in jail for what happened on January the 6th. There are some that sat in jail that should have sat in jail, and that even if they were, if their sentences were pardoned or commuted or whatever you want to call it, then that's Trump's right. But even those who did deserve to be in jail because of violence against a police officer did sit in jail. It's not like those people never
right,
served.
right.
All these people, for regardless of what they did, sat in jail for 3 or 4 years. So but the January 6th committee was as weaponized as it gets. I mean, it's a farce for any of us to believe that Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, Adam Schiff, these slime balls didn't have something going that was all on the up and up. I mean, you got to be I got some, a bridge I'll sell you and wherever to believe that. But the January 6th, really the last thing I want to say about this is that the third highest ranking person in the Department of Justice under Merrick Garland was a guy named Michael Colangelo. In 2022, Michael Colangelo, talking about the third highest ranking person in the world's premier Justice Department, decides to leave that department and go work as a prosecutor in the district attorney's office in New York City to head up all the Trump prosecutions and all that sort of thing that ultimately will be thrown out sooner or later. You don't have to look much further than that to say, wait a minute, that you can't. That doesn't smell the pet. That doesn't pass the smell test. You're not going to tell me. You're not going to convince me that this third highest ranking person and the salaries that come with it and all the perks that come with it is going to just suddenly leave, not be fired, but suddenly leave and go to New York and work for, Bozo himself and at $70,000 a year, and that not be an example of weaponization. So I think it's been clear that we've dealt with it for 4 years now, and I'll be damned if I'm going to sit quiet if anyone decides they want to get all up on the dashboard, as my grandmother used to say, about Pam Bondi going after a Liz Cheney or whatever else. And at some point, we're going to have a segment on what it means when Fauci, Cheney, all these people got these preemptive pardons. What does that mean? Or what does it not mean? Because what it doesn't mean is that these people still can be called to sit in front of hearings. They can't plead the fifth because they have full immunity, so they have to tell the truth. And so that's kind of a side twist of this whole thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my thoughts on the weaponization. I'm so glad
More
all
to
these
come.
people are out. Yeah, more
More
to
to
come.
come.
All right, Sammy, it's time for
Mr. Rooter. I see them all the time around here.
yeah, they
Yeah,
All
are.
the
They're
time.
pretty
They're
trucks
visible.
and vans.
Mr. Rooter is located all over North America as well as here in Waxahachie. This is what you will expect should you call them. They do residential and commercial work. You're always going to get licensed experts. They're going to arrive on time and keep your house clean with mats and shoe covers. They are friendly to every client. They always provide a price before they start, and they can also remodel your bathroom. You can call at 469-240-3113 or reach them on the web at mrrooter.com/Waxahachie.
Very good. Thank you, Sammy. All right. Sammy can weigh in on this too, because I know he has an opinion about it. But in our he said segment, the question is, are professional sports rigged? What say you?
I say no. I say no.
Why do you say no?
Why do I say no? Well, when you say rigged, it depends what you mean. But are the heads of the leagues doing things to change the
Are
outcomes?
outcomes
Changed
scripted?
our outcomes scripted? We know that this is not wrestling. I say no. Outcomes are not scripted. Remember this: these sports leagues have got their antitrust status, and to lose that, I don't think the owners want to risk it. Now, I think when there if there's rigging going on, it all comes down to the mighty gambling situation, and rigging can happen at any kind of level,
Yeah.
but ultimately the ones that can make determinations of the ones that can actively implement rigging are players and coaches,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and so
Well, and officials.
and officials, players and coaches
Well,
and
I
officials.
remember a guy named Tim Donahue about 10 to 15 years ago, refereeing the NBA, it served prison time because he was fixing
Games.
games, uh, and controlling them.
Paul Hornung, in the prime of his career, the golden boy from Notre Dame, the Heisman Trophy winner. He sat out a year from gambling, came back and won a Super Bowl with the Packers.
Pete
Uh,
Rose was banned from baseball
Pete
for
Rose was
he,
banned for baseball.
but
But
let me try to convince you that it is. All right. I'm not saying that it is, but let me try to convince you, and Sammy too. So we let me go back to 1969.
the amazing Mets.
No, the Amazing Jets, as it were. 1969 was the year that the NFL was wanting to merge and become bigger. There was the AFL, which I don't know how many teams it had in it, but we know of those teams, the original teams. The Jets were one of them. So the Jets and the Colts played in the Super Bowl, put Joe Namath on the map, Alabama boy, by the way. The Colts, by many accounts, the Colts of that year, again, this is being contemporaneously. You wouldn't play the 1969 Colts against the 2025 Chiefs and say the Colts could hang with them, because they
Right,
couldn't.
right.
But of that time, the Colts were considered to be the best NFL team in history. It wasn't a long history, but there are
With
others who
Johnny
believe since
Unitas,
then. Yeah, there were others who've since then believed the same thing. Uh, so they were predicted to stomp the Jets, not even close. Well, we know what happened, right? We know the Jets won the game. We know that Joe Namath became the golden boy,
ticker tape parade.
and we know that the merger happened. Had the Jets not won that game, I can see where people would believe, well, that the merger, why would there be a merger of teams that the only example we really have is the champion of the NFL stomp the champion of the AFL. It'd be no different today if the Chiefs or the Eagles, who want to win the Super Bowl, then play the champion of the UFL, the Spring League, or the XFL, and the possibility of those two leagues merging is on the line. We want there to be a close game, right?
But there were the ABA NBA merger happened just because of economics.
Well, yeah.
The World Hockey League and the NHL just because of economics. I don't. I think it'd be hard to draw a case to that to say that sports are rigged today.
I'm talking about the NFL, giving you examples of in that day. If it was March of 1969 and you and I were having a show and the Jets had just beat the Colts, and I would have said, of course the Jets had to win. They want this merger to go through. If it would have been a bloodbath and the Jets lost by 50, There would have been no merger. You're not going to merge two leagues where they're one's superior and one's inferior.
Mr. Brooks, sir,
Was
there
it-
have been upsets. What you got?
Was it a good game?
No, it was, I, I can't remember. I'm sure I watched it with my dad, but it was, it was a,
Joe Namath took
yeah,
over.
Colts were coached
He
by Don
dominated.
Shula. Terry's right.
Yeah.
It was a game, Sammy. It would be like the Chiefs playing the Renegades
And the Renegades winning?
and the Renegades winning.
I don't think it's that big a mismatch. Yeah,
It was that big of a mismatch.
there's upsets in all sports
I
over
know,
all the
but
years.
not in that game. And let me just convince you with a few more things that I know you're going to disagree with. Are you ready?
Try me.
I happened to be at the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight with my lovely bride about 3 months ago. A fight that was what was said to be real. Tyson tried to convince everybody it was real. Jake Paul tried to convince everybody it was real. Vegas tried to convince everybody it was real. And it wasn't into one round where it was obvious it wasn't.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Everybody knew that
It was
going
rigged.
in.
All
Well,
right.
yeah, that's got nothing to do with
Sabres.
real major sports.
What's boxing?
Oh, and if you want to talk
Let me,
about
no, no, let me just,
the
I'm
foot in the
convincing
crease,
you.
oh my
You're
gosh.
being stubborn.
What?
In 1999, I was living in Buffalo, New York, and I was a big Buffalo Sabres fan at the time. It was Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals. Buffalo was down for 3-2. So if Dallas won, they won the NHL, the Stanley Cup. If Buffalo won, it was Game 7 back here in Dallas. There was a rule back then, Mr. Hockey Man, that said you can't have your skate cannot be in the crease in the blue. If a goal goes in, it's no goal. Wipe it off. Now tell me, where was Brett Hull's skate when
In
that
the
goal was?
crease after the puck was
No.
in the crease.
See that he's part of the rig. He's part of it being rigged. His skate was in the blue. It was no goal, and yet we lost. The Sabres lost. That's another example. And Sammy will remember this one. In 2018, the Los Angeles Rams were playing, I believe it was a playoff game in New Orleans, and the Saints were about to score. They had a guy wide open on the near the sideline. Breeze threw it to him, and I'm talking. It should have been he should have been charged with assault, battery, because he hit that defender, hit that wide receiver about 2 hours before the ball got there, and
It was
then
realistically about 4 seconds
it
before the
was
ball
it
got
was
There
nobody
are
made.
officials make bad calls.
But
I'm not saying that they don't, but I will tell you one thing: as a guy that has worn the stripes on skates, if you want as a fan to try to get any change in the way an official operates, the number one thing you can do to make sure that doesn't happen is to criticize them, because nobody likes criticizing. And when you're out on the ice or on the field or on the court and people are on your rear end, the last thing you want to do is give them any kind of break at
Yeah,
that point.
but
I'm
but
telling you
what you're
that.
leaving out is, if I would have come to you before the game,
Which came down.
any game, pick a game, and said, because I have some good reason to say, hey, I got 500 grand, right? I know you wouldn't,
Right.
but lesser men would.
Sure.
If I got 500 grand, you it's not a goal. No matter what happens, when that puck goes in, it's no goal. You're
Right.
going to figure out how to do it if you're of that nature.
If a
So,
player or a ref is on the take, a player or a ref is on the take. But I don't think we can just categorically say that these leagues are rigged.
well, the last thing I'll say here is on Sunday's Bills Chiefs game, and I'm a big Bills fan. We know that. I could make the argument there was some rigging going on there. I'm not saying there was. I can make the argument that there was. And then finally, the point spread on the Bills was the Bills +2, and the final score was the Chiefs win by 3.
Well, if they had decided to kick 2 extra points, then
You're making my point.
then the spread would have been
I don't
covered.
know if it's rigged. They just need to really tighten up on the call. Like
Yeah.
if they throw a flag, you call a penalty.
Yeah, that's the other thing is when it drives me nuts when referees throw a flag and then they say, "Oh, we're picking it up." Well, why'd you throw it in the first place? You
And
Yeah.
talked out of it by Ned and the fifth grade reader over here
even if you
because
see like an inch of the ball go over the yellow line,
Yeah.
you call it a first down.
All right.
Josh Allen got that first down.
Well, at the end of the day, I don't think there's any rigging going
Me
on. It's
neither,
too
but
big of a. It's too big. There's too many leakers.
they
There's
just need
too
to
many.
tighten up on it
Yeah,
and
they
make
gotta.
sure it's good.
They gotta get it right because the Bills.
We got to do the Titans.
Bills got robbed. That's all I'm saying. All right. It is time for a poem by Jeffrey. Rhyme time.
Do we want to knock out the 5 thoughts?
Oh yeah, you got 5 random thoughts laying on
And
us.
boy, I usually do a lot of splaining about them.
Terry says several calls should have been called. Amen,
Well,
brother.
no doubt, no doubt.
All right,
That's
lay it
because
on
we
us.
got humans. I'm just relying on simple old expressions that I hear all the time, and I think they're great ones. From small acorns, mighty oaks grow.
Yeah.
What goes around comes around.
Yep.
Buyer beware. You sow what you reap.
You reap what you sow.
You reap what you sow. And thy will be done.
Yep. Amen.
Yeah.
Thy will be done. Amen. All right.
Okay.
Let's get to the
so,
poem.
Poem time. Now, I try to make a timely selection of my poem to do with what we're talking about. And this whole talk about racism reminded me of this poem. This is the second poem I ever wrote in my original book, 2020 Hindsights. Did a little research. We're going to talk a little bit about the Associated Press and their stylistic form, but they changed to using capital B's for black on June 19th. And the avid paper reader
What year?
of 2020.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, I'm looking at the paper and I'm seeing this capital B all the time. I go, what is this? I look it up. Well, they've made this recommendation to change, and it was just a microcosm of what was happening in the whole world at the time, and it's called Offended, and it goes like this: She's offended, he's offended. The whole world needs to be upended. You're offensive to me. Forget about thee. My feelings are hurt. Everybody seems to
Agree.
blurt.
Oh.
Tear down that statue. They're all bad news. It's up, of course, which ones to choose. Let's forget all our history. We'll make it a big mystery. Don't learn from the past. No, it's gone at last. No memorials to remember. Just vote no in November. No names, no recollections. Change the bills and stamps in all collections. Big B is for black. Little W is for white. Such a show of media muscle, a misguided sign of might. The left leaning press has made this mess. The mighty AP started it, they'll confess. When the big city paper said us too, so all the rest of print thought they too must do. Now, while we need the capital B, lowercase w is how we shall be. They claim a capital W for white is a show of white supremacy. Supremacy,
Yeah.
excuse me.
That's right.
So all the races get capital letters except white? No silliness. No end to the silliness in sight. The dictionary folks then got in the act, common word usage, they will always back. Now we have both cases in the book. If you don't believe it, go take a look. If I was black, I think I'd feel like here's the big deal. What's the big B going to do for me? Capital B for black won't bring George Floyd back. Just like the small b for black didn't cause the kneeling on his back. But I am white, so it's not really worth the fight. Though it seems to me it's inconsistent in a new slight. Does the letters case define one's face? It all really comes down to love versus hate. What we choose determines our fate.
Very good.
Thank
I
you.
like that one.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good.
That's
Thank
the one that made me say, you know what? I think I can write, and I think I want to write, and I
Yeah.
think I got something to say.
That's good.
And now I say things about far less important stuff than that.
Well, that was a good one. Very good.
Thank you.
Brianna joined us earlier, and I failed to mention her. So thank you for being here, Brianna. All right, Sammy, it's yours.
Pier 7. If you love seafood, Pier 7 is the way to go. Located on I-35, about 10 minutes north of Waxahachie, you will not miss their big Pier 7 sign. They are in a popular area. They have great service with a fun bar, and they have outstanding food. They have great deals like spend $30 and get 12 calamari, spend $50 and get one order of egg rolls, spend $100 and get a free order of shrimp fried rice. If you find yourself wanting some great seafood, head over to Pier 7.
Very good. Sam, you need to shave.
You need to
Either shave
shave.
or grow a beard.
Grow some
You do
hair.
too.
I know I do.
He's
You do
attacking
too.
me.
I'm attacking my son.
Uh,
All right,
After a great
it's time.
commercial.
That time.
Huzzar, and Terry,
Terry,
thank you for your
yes.
very kind
Very
words. I
nice.
appreciate them.
All right, it's time.
Today in history, I went 4 and 5. We had 8 total. I was 0 and 3 out the gate. Thank God I got one double, or I'd have been really worse.
I'm
Here we
feeling
go.
it today.
England's King Henry VII died at age 55. He was succeeded by his 9-year-old son, Edward VI.
1747.
Before that,
I got no
You're
idea.
correct about that part.
1550.
1547.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, yeah. Yikes.
What?
Yeah,
Dude.
hey, if the Jets can beat the Colts, why can't I get one right like that?
Because it's rigged.
I don't read the Dallas Morning News. They're too expensive anymore.
For a shrinking newspaper, I might add. The
$21 a
novel
month.
Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen was first published anonymously in London.
Terry said 1712, so you got that one wrong. The last one.
Sammy's
Pride
the
and
narrator.
Prejudice.
Go, Sam.
You got to go first.
1840.
1860.
1813. My wife asked me, you know why it was anonymous? I said, I think back in that time, women felt that if they put something out under their own name, first of all, they would never get it published, and second of all, nobody would ever buy it, and
Yeah.
so that's
Probably
why
true. Yeah.
so it was commonplace then.
Yeah.
98 people were killed when the roof of the Knickerbocker Theater in Washington D.C. That was supposed to be a bonus. It's underlined. I'm sorry. Collapsed under the weight of nearly 2 feet of snow. Would you have known it was in Washington?
What was the last date?
Last date was 1813. Knickerbocker Hotel. 2 feet of snow. The roof collapsed.
1968.
1940.
1922.
Jeez, man.
Damn it. Started out strong with my 1550.
Yeah. Elvis Presley made his first national TV appearance on Stage Show, a CBS program hosted by Tommy and Jimmy Dorsey.
What was the last date?
Last date was 22. This is Elvis Presley. Ain't nothing but a hound dog.
71.
1959.
56.
Sammy doesn't know his eras.
No bonus, but you still
Oh,
get
I
it.
got it, yeah.
There we go.
Ask me about Little Baby.
6 U.S. diplomats who had avoided being taken hostage at their embassy in Tehran flew out of Iran with the help of Canadian diplomats. The events were later dramatized in the film Argo.
Yeah, that was a great movie, by the way, with Ben Affleck. That would have been.
Good job, Terry.
I want to say 1972.
I'm going to go 1968.
1980, I had the bonus, and you're 8 off. Sorry you didn't get
The
it.
one time I don't go over your
Terry
guess.
got the one before right,
Yeah.
I think.
To raise funds to support of famine relief in Ethiopia, the supergroup USA for Africa recorded the song "We Are the World." Remember the Coke commercials with that?
That was a great song. Still is a great song.
Boy, they had the stars in that.
Yeah, they did.
Boy.
Man, I'm gonna say
89.
what did you say?
89.
I'm gonna say 1990.
85.
Got it
Finally.
right.
Okay.
Got one.
Got it right. 3 and 3. How many do we have total?
We got 8 total. We got 2 left. Here we go. The Space Shuttle Challenger exploded 73 seconds after liftoff from Cape Canaveral, Florida, killing all 7 crew members, including school teacher.
Wait. Is there are the bonuses in this one
Uh,
besides the year?
well, we didn't grant one. I wasn't given that opportunity.
Rita's like
Because I did not give you the chance on Washington. If you want to mistake, you know this one.
yeah, I do.
Who is it?
Cold. Well, I'll let Sammy do the year first.
Who is the school teacher?
He wouldn't know.
I have no idea.
Krista McAuliffe.
What'd you call her?
Krista McAuliffe. McAuliffe. If I had just said McAuliffe, you'd have given it to me. I can't remember if it's Krista or Christine or Christine.
You can have a half a point if
Okay,
that
I
makes
got
it.
it. What was her?
Krista
I
McAuliffe.
said Krista
Then
the
you
first
changed.
time.
You
No,
changed
I changed it because you questioned
because
me.
I didn't think I heard the McAuliffe right.
And when
What
was it?
year, Sam?
Space Shuttle Challenger
I'll
exploded.
give you a clue. It was when your sister Lauren was born. The year.
How old is she right now?
I'm not telling you that.
She's got to be 35. So 1996.
You're off by 1 decade.
All you had to-
86. I can even tell you the
All you had to do was
Janu-
look down and see
yeah,
what
January
Sonia
20,
said.
28th. I remember where I was. I was driving a sales rep and I had to pull off the
What
side of the
happened to
road.
him?
The Challenger,
What's
the
a
whole
Challenger?
world, a space shuttle
Oh.
had 7 or 8 people on
7.
it. Were going up to the moon, and the whole world was watching it on
It blew
TV,
up.
and it blew up.
But why was the
minute-
teacher on there?
She had won this contest.
Oh, poor. Oh.
But the families were in the audience down at
And
Cape
because she was a
Canaveral,
woman.
and they're looking up and watching it, and it explodes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's horrible.
So I got that right. I'm
You got
taking the
your-
bonus. Y'all just have to. Y'all just have to kick me out of the
You
league.
take it.
I got robbed.
There's one.
It's
There's
rigged.
one left. There's one left.
One
Right.
left.
It's rigged.
Sonia got it right.
Sonia got it right. And you had another nice comment earlier, Sonia, that we did not acknowledge. Chaos engulfed Egypt as protesters seized the streets of Cairo, battling police, burning down the ruling party's headquarters, and defying a military curfew.
Sonia was watching it in high school. Thanks
When did you say that was?
for reminding me I was an adult.
I said when I said Cairo. That's what I said. When.
Dang it. I'll get you one time. What was last date? 86?
That's a
Yeah.
legitimate question. 86. Yes.
Oh, you have to read it again.
2007.
Chaos engulfed Egypt as protesters seized the streets of Cairo, battling police, burning down the ruling party's headquarters, and defying a military curfew.
2016.
I said 2000.
You don't
15.
lie. He's
15.
lying now.
2011. 2011.
Booyah.
Still got it with both. So
All right, I was 6-3 today. I'll take it.
not a very good one for me.
All right.
You were 5.5
That's our
in
show.
play.
Let me read the meme for today, or the quote for the day is: your whole life can change with one opportunity, one open door, one great idea, and one right person believing in you. Keep going.
That's all true.
Amen, amen, amen.
That's
All right,
all
thank
true.
you for being with us today on Grit and Good News. We'll be back on Thursday for another hour full of talk and sharing and interacting. Thank you for being here. We look forward to seeing you in a couple of days. With that, Jeffrey, it's all yours.
Remember, don't write a check that you can't cash. Boom. Thank you, man.
have a good one.